What is the real cost of owning a private jet? Have you ever wondered what it would be like to own a private jet? To be able to fly anywhere you wished at any time, only needing to call your pilot and tell them where you want to land? Well, many of us really do wish to be able to own a private jet. The sad truth is that simply buying a jet would cost an arm and a leg, probably even more than that. And keeping them maintained is another constant cost that not many are willing to spend their money on. So, what's the real price of owning a jet? Today, we'll be presenting you a detailed analysis on what it means to own a jet and how much it actually costs. Let's begin by talking about the price of jets in the first place. Even the cheapest private jet in existence will run you for a few $1 million. A private jet of any kind can cost around $3 million to $90 million. Similar to cars, especially luxury ones, private jets are subject to depreciation. So if you were to buy one, a second-hand jet would be better. However, let's be honest for a second. Almost anybody wealthy enough to be thinking about buying a private jet for real will probably go ahead and splurge on a new one anyway. How many rich people do you know that have bought a second-hand private jet anyway? As Steve Arzano, founder of the luxury private aircraft company of The Jet Business, says, if you're not flying your airplane 150 to 200 hours a year, you really shouldn't buy one. You should just rent one. However, other people beg to differ, claiming that these statistics are meant to lure innocent buyers into private jet purchases. According to other types of aviation experts, if you fly a minimum of 350 to 400 hours a year, then buying a private jet is worth it. If your flying habits are below these rates, then the cost of owning a private jet outweighs the benefits. In this case, it's wise to opt for other flying options. When creating a budget for your private jet, you also need to consider all of the hidden costs. Okay, you spent a few million buying a second-hand or new private jet. Now what? Well, you have to be able to also cover additional expenses, such as insurance, fuel cost, pilots, and catering services. Of course, your private jet is probably not going to fly itself by its own, and it needs some kind of fuel, just like your car does. Either you drive your own private plane or have someone else do it. However, you might find that even though you don't reach those hours per year, you are always accompanied by associates during your flights. Since commercial flights charge per seat, you may find that paying for those trips costs you more than owning a jet. Depending on your budget, age, or size of the aircraft you need, and more, the initial purchase price can vary tremendously. It's also important to note that most owners switch jets every 4 to 5 years, much like car owners. Anyway, private jet owners aren't very common, and most tend to be on the older side of the scale than the young one. There are only about 11,000 private jet owners in the United States. The average age of a jet owner is 63.6 years old, with a net worth of over $1.5 billion. And even more impressive than that is the massive cost of a private jet. Most jet owners spend just 1% of their net worth on the jet. So for most of them, a private jet is just a commodity bought with pocket money. But the truth is that buying yourself a private jet is only a fraction of the cost. The maintenance costs, unless you can pay them off in cash every time they arise. As with cars, the price of a jet greatly depends on the size of the aircraft, the number of passengers it can hold, and the distance it can fly. And filling a private jet with fuel is definitely not the same as fueling a standard car, or even a luxury car. Planes with larger fuel tanks for long-range intercontinental flights require a lot of fuel. An example of cost is that the Bombardier Global 8000 has a fuel capacity of nearly 50,000 pounds. The average expense to fill up the tank is $53,000. Well, imagine that. Every time you fly across the world, you're going to have to pay up to half of $100,000 or around that amount. There's also the option of chartering a private jet, which, while is definitely more expensive than flying on a standard commercial flight, is still less expensive than buying your own jet. However, you want to make sure that this investment is worthwhile enough. Flights on private jets are charged by the hour. Prices vary depending on the size of the jet, length of the flight, and the number of people on board. The typical cost is between $1,674 and $8,640 per hour to charter a private jet. Renting a jet for an entire weekend can run $100,000 or more, which, when divided by the number of passengers assisting to each of the flights, might be a good deal if all of them meet the minimum requirements. So, When is chartering a private jet a viable option? Unless you spend at least 150 hours a year flying, renting is probably a better option than buying one outright, acting as the middle point between buying and flying commercial. Now, how should you buy a private jet? If you want to purchase it, you can always get a personal loan to buy the jet. Most people truthfully can afford the cost of a private jet in full, let alone the costs associated with maintaining it. As you might know, with a personal loan, you can borrow money from a bank or credit union to pay for the jet up front and then repay the loan over time. Despite this, getting a personal loan for a private jet is much more difficult than getting an approved one for anything else, even a car or a house. Not everyone is able to afford a private jet anyway, and the cheapest ones run for a few $1,000,000. You need to have a near perfect credit score and be able to pay up for the loan interest and additional costs, the plane itself, and the down payment for it. You can also look into getting a secured personal loan, which would require you to put down a valuable asset, such as your home. If you aren't able to repay your loan, the lender would be able to legally seize your asset. So unless you're certain you can pay all of this off, then don't attempt to buy one of these on a loan, or end up with a private jet sitting in your backyard, but not even have a roof under which you can comfortably sleep at night. If you're interested in getting a loan for a private jet, you can talk with some credit unions or associations designed for these kinds of loans. Some lenders cater specifically to loans for private jet financing, including Jet Loan Capital, Jet Lease Capital, and Global Jet Capital. The Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association also offers an online loan financing calculator to help estimate your monthly payments. You can also choose to lease a private jet instead of purchasing outright, which has many of the same benefits of owning a private jet. Leasing a private jet works very similarly to leasing a new car, with the option to sign a lease from several months to several years. Leasing a private jet is also a great way to test out different aircraft before making the full investment in purchasing one. And because lessors don't legally own the aircraft, they don't have to deal with depreciation or reselling the plane if they decide to purchase a new one. Finally, there's an option of signing up for a private jet club by investing in a charter flight membership. In these clubs, you pay for a seat on a plane instead of renting it. Of course, that's a lot of money anyway. An example of this is Wheels Up, a private jet club company in which members are charged around $3,000 to $30,000 to join and have access to their shared flights. Though clubs are like resorts in that they include many advantages, discounted deals for a family or guest passes, plus also the privacy of knowing who you're flying with. So, what did you think of these costs? Would you like to buy your own private jet? Or perhaps would you like chartering one instead? It all depends on how many hours you spend flying a year. Thank you for staying with us. Don't forget to leave us a like, share this video with your friends, and also subscribe to our channel to receive more engaging business content like today's video. Hey, if you enjoyed our video, you just have to watch this one.